now, and we are awaiting to see whether or not he sends troops to Eastern Europe.
Can you tell me whether you think, sir, that the risk of an invasion is increasing or decreasing or steady just as it has been these recent days?
You know, I'll be completely honest with you. It's a little bit like reading tea leaves.
Joining me right now is Tennessee Senator, Senate Commerce Committee member Marsha Blackburn. Senator, what do you think he means by reading tea leaves? I don't understand.
It is astounding to me. You have Vladimir Putin, who has turned Russian adventurism into an Olympic sport. He has a history of that. He did it in '08 with Georgia, 14 with Crimea. He is poised to do it again during these Olympics. And then you have Joe Biden, who is out eating ice cream and doesn't seem to know what is going on and doesn't care, and a spokesperson over at the State Department who's saying, well, I don't see what Afghanistan has to do with emboldening Russia. Maria, these are the reasons that Tennesseans and people all over this country are just aghast with what is going on. When you combine this with Russia, Ukraine, and it matters what happens there. We know that Putin is trying to put the band back together. He wants the old Soviet Union. This is a birthday, big birthday year for him. And he wants this to be a part of the celebration. And we have the United States, who is not solid in our response. It's why I wrote the president back in November and said, you need to begin sales of lethal assistance to Ukraine so they can defend themselves. You need to impose sanctions, both the economic sanctions on the country, on Putin, on the oligarchs, and be firm in this and do it before an action takes place, because he moves when the world's attention is elsewhere, like the Olympics, with his history, and the Olympics are coming.
Yeah, so how worried are you, or how worried should we be, that Russia and China are cozying up even more together as both countries chart their courses? Russian President Vladimir Putin lashed out against the diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Olympics, vowing support for China. He actually called it the politicization of sport. 10 countries, led by the United States, announced a diplomatic boycott of the Olympics. Not sure really what that does, but as a result of that, it's only bringing Russia and China further together.
You're correct about that. And bear in mind, Xi and Putin are scheduled to meet during the Olympics. And diplomatic boycotts, you know, Xi Jinping doesn't give a ripping flip about a diplomatic boycott. What he wants is to have those cameras there. He is going through this purification of the internet. He is imposing extreme censorship on the athletes, on the Chinese people, so that he can tailor the message that, look at China, we're launching our digital yuan. We are the most progressive country. We're participating in our Belt and Road Initiative. We're building great power competition. They want to come out as number one from this. We ought not to be there. We should be doing the USA Freedom Games and having our athletes competing here, and not have our corporate sponsorships and our TV cameras there, letting them tell their version of the story.
Well, what's your take on now China saying that it's pledging a, quote, purification of the internet? Can you imagine, Senator, China wants all the internet to only say positive things about China ahead of the Beijing Winter Olympics and the Lunar New Year. The CCP planning to manage home pages of media sites and news pages to make sure that they present only, quote, positive information. Purification of the internet, they're calling it, Senator.
Right. And our media outlets ought not to be there. Imagine if they submit, if you've got our media outlets and they submit to the Chinese Communist Party taking control of their pages and only putting the things on their pages. You know, I want to know what has happened to Peng Shui. Where is the tennis player? What is going on there? Yeah. I want to know when the Chinese Communist Party is planning to surveil our athletes, forcing them to download an app. What is going to happen to them if they say something negative about the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah, and I want to know why globalists who were raised and born in America have now submitted to the CCP, like Ray Dalio, who is the founder of Bridgewater Associates, who has managed money for the Communist Party. He gave an interview to Bloomberg the other day, and it's going to run as soon. And he said the U.S. is on the decline and China is rising, Senator. We understand that his son lives in China. He runs a charity in China, Matt Dalio. We understand that Ray Dalio manages money for the CCP. So, in effect, he is funding their expansion. What do you want to say to these people who are funding the expansion of the CCP at the same time the CCP is making it very clear that they will overtake the United States as the #1 superpower? And maybe those companies that Americans are unwittingly invested in are those same companies that will turn around and fight against the United States, because the important companies are obviously tied to the military in China.
Yeah, you know, I think we have to look at it like this, Maria. The CCP is looking at President Biden and this administration, and they are laughing because he is not holding them to account in the manner that President Trump held them to account, whether it was sanctions or trade or other components of their participation, finding out what happened with COVID. So they see this as a clear runway to take off. And this is why they are bullying Taiwan. It is why they are continuing to push against us, and why they are not going to give us answers that we need. And these companies need to say, nothing good comes from communism. Never does, never will.
Yeah. Well, they're not saying that, Senator. So we're going to keep a spotlight on all of this, and it's great to talk.